Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, May 21st regular called City Council meeting. Ms. Hilbert, can you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Councilman De La Garza?
I am present.
Councilwoman Soliz?
Here.
Councilwoman Scott?
Here.
Mayor Pro-Tem Young?
Here.
Councilman Lofgren?
Here.
Mayor Crocker?
Here. Will you please join me for the pledges, followed by a moment of silence?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Again, welcome, everyone. We have quite a few exciting things going on at tonight's meeting, but we'll jump right into it with item B1, which is announcements and reminders. Mr. Garza, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I do have a few announcements for you this evening. All non-emergency city offices and the Victoria Public Library will be closed on Monday, 27th in observance of Memorial Day. Offices will reopen at 8 a.m. on Tuesday, May 28th. Trash and recycling will be picked up as part of the regular schedule, and the Riverside Golf Course will also remain open as regularly scheduled. On behalf of the library, the Victoria Public Library invites the public to come celebrate the launch of their annual summer reading program at their Summer Fun Fest on Saturday, June 1st from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Join us for a fantastic time with special guests from Chick-fil-A, Fire Department, Police Department, Children's Discovery Museum, Baskin-Robbins, PJ's Coffee, and many more. On behalf of the police department, we'd like to invite the public to this year's Casting with Cops event. This is a free youth fishing event that'll take place on Saturday, June 8th from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. at Sun Valley Ranch to strengthen the relationship between Victoria's youth and VPD officers. Children ages 2 through 15 will have the opportunity to meet their local first responders as officers help with baiting hooks, reeling in fish, and so on and so forth. The department will provide fishing equipment, bait, breakfast, or lunch, drinks, and prizes. Children must be accompanied by a guardian for the entire event. Participants must register in advance for one of the available 1-hour time slots by contacting the Community Engagement Unit at 361-485-3808 or policeceu@victoriatx.gov.
Very good, thank you. Then we will move on to item B2, which is public and employee recognitions. Mr. Garza, do you have anything under that item? Because I have one.
Yeah, you have a very important one. So let me take care of a few employee-centric recognitions before we get on to the bigger important one, right?
Yes, please, thank you.
I do want to recognize our Assistant City Secretary, Sandra West. She recently completed more than 30 hours of leadership training held over a 2-month period by attending the Texas Municipal League Leadership Fellows Program to enhance her leadership skills. Participants explored the principles and characteristics of ethical leadership, learned to build trust and community, discovered ways to improve team building and communication skills, and practiced negotiation skills for strategic influence. The class held discussions over local issues in the broader leadership context with the goal of applying learnings to their public service role and to benefit their cities and residents. And so, Sandra, congratulations. We really appreciate you. Please stand.
Great job, Sandra.
In that same vein, as has become customary, we have many employees that invest in their professional development, both career-centric or formal education-centric. And so I do want to ask our police chief and Lieutenant Hayden to stand up. They recently graduated with some degrees. Chief Young graduated from LeVar University with a master's degree in criminal justice, and Lieutenant Hayden both graduated from Texas A&M Commerce with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I say both because we also had Detective Terrence Wilkinson graduate with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Couldn't be here today, but Lieutenant Hayden and Chief Young are here today, and so thank you all so much for your... And lastly, one of the programs that I'm very proud of that the city has undertaken over the last couple of years is a partnership with the University of Houston, Victoria for interns. We've had roughly half a dozen interns over the course of a 2-year period, one of which actually now works in our finance department. And so this internship program has truly opened doors and opportunities for these students. But we have 2 students that recently completed their internship, and I'd like to ask them to stand. Riley Rivera, who's pursuing her bachelor's degree in political science with a pre-law concentration, interned with the Victoria Public Library and the City of Victoria Municipal Court as she explored how to help individuals navigate legal proceedings. She researched and developed flyers featuring a comprehensive list of locally available legal resources and shadowed city staff during municipal court dockets, which allowed her to learn more about the justice system, including the rights of a person accused of a crime. A copy of the legal resource directory she put together is included in City Council's packets and available to the public in the Municipal Court foyer and the Victoria Public Library. So Riley, thank you so much for your assistance with that effort. And then second, we have Julia. Where'd she go? All right, Julia, is it Heisel or Hizel? Heisel. I said it wrong both times. She graduated from UHV this spring with her bachelor's degree in English, interned with the City of Victoria Communications and Public Affairs Department, where she learned how to create informative and engaging content through various types of written communications, as well as the importance of clarity and transparency. She interviewed city staff and developed written content that included press releases, social media posts, and the script for a tutorial video for the Victoria Public Library's new pickup locker. And she also learned how to use social media management tools. And so we want to congratulate them for their internship and thank them for their service to the city and our residents. The executive leadership team has an opportunity to hear a presentation from the interns when they finish their internship program. And one of the things that's pretty neat about it is that their experience with us has literally helped them figure out what they want to do career-wise. And so I encourage other businesses or organizations that are listening or tuning in to consider partnering with either UHV or Victoria College for internships. We were all interns at some point, right? And have great memories, and we have our interns to thank for our career successes. And so if we can pay it forward by partnering with our institutions of higher education for internships like we have, we can start changing the narrative of keeping folks in Victoria for jobs. And I think that's important. And I'm excited and honored that we're leading by example in that regard.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Garza. So then I will move on to my item, which is my pleasure to recognize Councilwoman Soliz on her final meeting. And so I'd like to say a couple of things and then would open up for comments from other council members if they so choose. So I would like to take this opportunity to honor a cherished colleague and true friend to our community, Ms. Josephine Soliz. Throughout her 12 years on council representing District 2, Councilwoman Soliz has served our city with unquestioned commitment and passion, leaving no doubt as to her unwavering dedication to improving the lives of our citizens. She is an example to all of us of what public service should look like. As Mayor Pro-Tem, she provided steadfast leadership to our city in 2021 following former Mayor McCoy's passing, and throughout her tenure on council has been a key member of numerous boards and commissions, including, without naming all of them, but including the Golden Crescent Regional Planning Commission, the Metropolitan Planning Commission, and the Victoria Sales Tax Development Corporation. Her service extended beyond Victoria as well, when she served as the president of Region 11 of the Texas Municipal League, where she proudly represented Victoria and in turn made Victoria proud of her. Thank you, Councilwoman Soliz, for everything you have done. On behalf of a grateful city, I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. I'm confident you will continue to make a difference in all that you do and that your service to our community will serve as an inspiration for those who follow in your footsteps. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank
You've had a fabulous, fabulous. Obviously, we're all grateful for what you have done, not only, as colleagues on council, but from the city itself. So if anyone else would like to.
Well, she's
say
done more
anything.
than the city. She was the past president of the Golden Crescent Regional Planning Commission, and everybody knows who Josie is in the Golden Crescent, and that's a 7-county area, so thank you for all you've done for not just the city, but for the region.
Thank you. Thank you.
Josephine, Ms. Soliz. First, I want to tell you, first of all, what an honor and pleasure it has been to work alongside you for this last 11 years. We've been through hurricanes, freezes, economic collapses, a pandemic, and the loss of a great friend in Mayor McCoy. Under your service, we hired a new city manager, an attorney. Fire stations have been built and refurbished for the future. Public safety headquarters being built. Parks have been improved and infrastructure addressed. You leave our city in a much, much greater place than when you came on. And I thank you. Thank you for stepping up in a time of sorrow and difficulty and being the face of the city. Thank you for always answering the call. Thank you for all your work on all the boards and commissions that they spoke of. I won't go through again. I'm proud to have worked alongside you, but I'm more proud to call you my friend. You will be missed, and Mr. Kidder has big shoes to fill. Thank you.
I'm not going to try to improve on perfection. I agree with everything that's been said. Thank you so much for your service. It has been a pleasure working with you, and I look forward to continuing in the future.
Thank you.
Josie, it's been a pleasure. As all of us know, she filled her son's seat, and she filled it extremely well. She did just as good as he did. It was a true tribute of love that you had for your son and the city of Victoria. And many other organizations in Victoria are very proud to have been assisted by you. So we'd like to thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure. And you're not going anywhere because we're still going to call you. Thank you.
You want me to say something now, or?
Absolutely. It's all yours.
It's all
You don't
mine.
have much time left.
It's been an honor and a pleasure to work with the city staff, the council members, and all the different boards that I have been involved in. I've made many, many, many great friends. Sometimes I'll see you in the street. I may not remember your name, but I'll remember your face. And I loved what I did. I still love what I do. I will be around. I'm not going nowhere. I'm just going to take a small vacation next week, okay? So I'll be coming to be on that side from now on. Okay.
Hey, you
Thank
still
you.
only get 3 minutes.
No, you promised me 3 minutes and 20 seconds. So. Not just kidding. But yes, truly, I have enjoyed it. The opportunity came right at the time of my life when all my children were grown, so I can't regret not, raising my kids. I have 5 children. I went to school after my 5th one, and I got my degree in accounting. I served under Gilbert for 6 years. That helped me a lot to be able to understand, the workings of the city. So it doesn't mean that you have to have financial background to be able to understand, because they will teach you. He's a great teacher, so he's also a very good friend, like everybody else. And I had the pleasure of bringing some of our best staff, including Jesus and the chiefs, and I'm really proud of that. It took a little convincing, but we got what it asked for. So, in that light, I just want to say thank you, all the staff. Ken, I need to take a picture with you, Ken, because I didn't get to take a picture with you, and you've been there forever. Yeah.
He's ancient. Ancient age.
But, yeah, and, yeah, I love you guys. I like sitting here and just watching everybody, because everybody has a reason for being here, and I appreciate that. We're here for each other, and as long as we listen to each other, we can get a lot of things done. Don't put each other down, just work together. Communication all the time. Okay? I love you guys, and I love this city. Thank you.
Here.
for you, and it says, presented to Josephine Soliz, City Council District 2, May 15th, 2012 to May 21st, 2024. In appreciation for your leadership and dedicated service as an elected official. Your commitment to enhancing livability for the citizens of Victoria has made the city a better place to live and do business. Thank you.
Thank you. Supposed to turn it around, right? Yes. The flowers, the cake, no, that's big, that's. There. Yeah. The cake and the flowers. Okay. You can take that. It's kind of heavy because I don't know.
Way to go, Doc.
April.
She can have it. Miss Josie, would you like your name?
How soon they forget. Just remember.
Well, Ms. Solis, thank you again for all you've done for the city. We appreciate it. Well-deserved accolades. Then I understand that there are no further public and employee recognitions, and so we will move then to item B3 on our agenda, which is administration of the oaths of office to our 4 new office holders for districts 1, 2, 3, and 4. And Ms. Hilbert will do the honors for us to swear in these new elected officials. We'll begin with District 1.
Raise your right hand. I, and state your name.
Congratulations. Then moving on to District 2 is Mr. Stephen Kidder.
Hello. If you'll just raise your right hand and repeat after me, sir. I, and state your name,
I, Stephen Kidder,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office of City Council Member for District 2
of the office of City Council Member District 2
for the City of Victoria
for the City of Victoria
and of the State of Texas,
and of the State of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my abilities
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
sir.
We'll move on then to District 3, Miss April Butler.
You'll raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, April Butler,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office of City Council Member for District 3
of the office of City Council District Member for District 3
and for the City of Victoria
for the City of Victoria
and of the State of Texas,
and of the State of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Ms. Bob. And then finally, Ms. Scott.
If you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Janice L. Scott,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office of Councilmember District 4
of the office of Council Member District 4
and of the City of Victoria
and of the City of Victoria
and of the State of Texas,
and of the State of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and of this state.
and of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, ma'am.
Well, congratulations to each of you, and welcome to our two newest members of council.
Thank you, Mayor.
And with that, we will jump right into the remainder of our work for the evening. So item B4 is election of a mayor pro tem. As you may recall, under city charter amendments, which were made here a few years ago, after each election, then council is required to elect a mayor pro tem that will serve until he or she is then either resigns that position or is replaced following the next election after that. So at this time then, I would open up the floor to any nominations for the position of mayor pro tem.
I would like to nominate Councilmember Dr. Young.
I second that.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second for Dr. Young. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none then, is there any discussion of Dr. Young that needs to be had?
Do I get to say? No, thank you. I appreciate the nomination, and I'd be honored.
You have served us well, and
Thank you.
I'd like to see that continue.
I appreciate that. I appreciate your confidence,
Okay.
and yours as well, Mark.
Then with that, motion and second to elect Dr. Young as the mayor pro tem. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, congratulations, sir.
Thank you very much.
Moving on then, item B5 is items from council. Does anyone have, I'm going to have a few, but does anyone have items from council at this time?
Mayor, we have a request on staff's part. We normally do it at this part of the meeting. I know it's kind of weird because it's items from council, but historically, this is also where we pull items from the consent agenda if needed. And so staff would like to pull D3 completely off the agenda so that we can clarify some elements in that resolution and on that aim, and we'll bring it back at a future meeting.
Okay, very good. So that's item D3. Okay. Any other items from council? Okay, I have a couple. And Ms. Lacy, I think these may be for you. The first one is, as everyone's aware, or many are aware, at our last meeting, we approved a code of conduct that for our boards and commissions, and I would just like for you to share some information in terms of a path forward to present and discuss and interaction with our boards and members of our boards and commissioners about that code of conduct. And I believe you have a plan, so I'd like to hear more about it.
Yes, sir, I do. First off, good evening, Mayor, Council. Congratulations to our new council members. Yes, so I do have a plan, and it is in action already. As y'all know, we have more than 10 boards and commissions citywide with nearly 70 different individuals that serve on them. Obviously, this code applies to all of them. However, I'm taking a phased approach to getting the chance to interact with each of the boards and each of the individuals on those boards. So what I've done is split them into sections, and the first three sections, or the first three boards that I took were the Tourism Advisory Board, the Library Advisory Board, and the Parks Commission. And the reason for that was that those three boards were immediately scheduled to have meetings. After discussion with the city manager, we decided to postpone those meetings until later in June. And so I have sent out an email to all of those board members, and they currently are responding to a doodle poll for a series of meetings that I would like to hold the second week of June. They're going to be informal meetings, and my goal is to get a mix of everybody from all those boards at each of the different meetings. So far, I have, I want to say 6 options that they can choose from. Once I get all those results, I will assign everybody to a different what their meeting date and time is. And my hope is that in those particular meetings, I can have the opportunity to sit down with everybody, answer any questions, run hypotheticals if they would like to, and also receive feedback from the board and commission members themselves. Because I have no doubt that there's probably something that some language that could be clarified or something that could be reworded to be more applicable. And so I encourage them to provide me with their feedback. That will allow me to bring that feedback back to y'all for potential amendments to the code of conduct. I've said it before. I don't know if I said it during the meeting last week, but I believe that this is a living document that is not, this is not an ordinance. This is not a law. This is simply a policy. And it can be changed, it can be amended if anytime that we or y'all want it to or feel like you need it to. So I've reached out to those board members. My next step is to reach out to the second set and then the third set, and then I will 70 people is a lot, but I will make the time to sit down with everybody and talk through these with them.
Okay. Are there any questions anyone may have?
Which 3 boards were those?
The first 3 are the Tourism Advisory Board, the Parks Commission, and the Library Advisory Board. The Library Advisory Board and I believe the Tourism Board actually were scheduled to have meetings this week or next week. And so I didn't want to just put it in front of them and say, here you go. I wanted to give them a chance to get familiar with it and give me their feedback. So we postponed their meetings to the end of June.
And both of those boards meet quarterly, correct? So moving to June won't disrupt?
No,
They'll still be able to meet during the quarter?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Okay. And is there a time frame that you have in mind or a timeline in terms of when that process, when your process will be finished in terms of discussions with all the individual members?
As quickly as possible. Bad timing. I have a vacation scheduled starting tomorrow, so as soon as I'm working around that as best as I can. As soon as I get back from that, then I plan to set the first group of meetings, and then I'm hoping that maybe by the it's the second week. I'm hoping. Don't hold me to this, but 3rd week and 4th week of June, I can be meeting with the other boards and move them along as best as I can.
Okay. So June will be a busy month for you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Any other questions? Okay,
I have a question.
sure.
Just curious, how will this apply when there's individuals that are not city appointees to the boards? Will you be meeting with like the entire board, or will you just be meeting with the individuals that are appointed by the city?
All of the individuals that are on they're city-run boards, and so therefore it applies to, it is a city board for example, the Library Advisory Board. That is a city-run board, so it does apply to all of those members. So I've actually already heard responses from several of the county appointees, including their new appointee that was appointed yesterday for attending the meetings.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Good question. Any other questions? Okay, while you're there then, it came to my attention following our last meeting regarding an item that's at the end of our agendas, and I've gone back and looked and noticed that they're on several of these regarding public hearings. And
Yes,
I know
sir.
that there were some questions surrounding that, and I was hoping that you could provide some additional information about that item that is denoted in double asterisk at the bottom of our agenda, and give a little explanation as to that.
Sure, absolutely. So that is a footnote at the bottom of our agenda. Most people probably have never even noticed that it's down there. So I did a little bit of research and dug back through previous agendas as far back as 2008. That was the oldest one that I could find, and that is a footnote that has been on the agendas at least since then. So at the time that, based on the conversations I've had with previous city attorneys, at the time that was added, there was no language in state law that required us to have a citizen communication or a public comment section of our meeting. So that was added to the agenda many, many years ago, simply to denote that this was a public meeting. The public was welcome to come and comment. But if you actually look at our agendas, also going back that far, at the top part, we've always had also a specific section labeled citizen communication where the public is welcome to come and speak. So back then, that's why it was put on there. There's a dual reason for that as well. There are items that are up for consideration that are required to have public hearings specifically, for example, ordinances. Sometimes we apply for grants that require public hearings. Not everything has one, but some things do. If for some reason, when the agenda was getting created, and you have to remember this was before we did it all electronically, if that public hearing section was for some reason not specified on the agenda, that allowed us to continue forward with that item because the public had been made aware that everything was up for a public hearing, although those were specific to those items. So it had kind of a dual purpose back in the day. So when my predecessor took over, I know that he kept that language on there. In 2019, state law actually changed to say that a government body shall allow each member of the public who desires to address the body regarding an item on the agenda for an open meeting of the body to address the body regarding the item at the meeting before or during the body's consideration of them. So that means that state law now requires that we have a specific section for public comment either before or during the item. So as a matter of efficiency, we have public comment at the beginning of a meeting for any item that does not specifically require a public hearing. As a matter of transparency and consistency, we strive to always post our agendas in the same way and in the same order. So when a specific item requires a public hearing, we list it under the public hearing section. You'll notice on our agendas that if there is no required public hearing, we leave that section completely off of the agenda so that the citizens know that their public comments need to be made during the citizen communication section of our agenda. This is why our citizens communication, if you look at the agenda, it actually says that that is the time to speak on any matter not specifically listed for public hearings in the subsection titled Public Hearings below. So that, when you look at the footnote at the bottom and it says all items are for public hearings, that is absolutely correct. The public hearing on the items that don't require public hearings takes place in citizen communication. So, as you know, the rules, statutes and rules of the Open Meetings Act are designed to ensure fair notice is given to the public as to what's going to be discussed at a meeting so that that individual citizen can make an informed decision on whether or not they would like to come and speak. Such rules are also in place to govern the orderly conduct of the meeting being held. And so as a matter, again, of efficiency and transparency so that the public can expect us to be able to speak at the same time every single meeting or to know how it's going to flow, we put all of our citizen communication at the top. The public can speak on any item on the agenda. And then we ask that if it's a specific public hearing item, that they hold their comments until that public hearing is opened by the mayor or the presiding officer.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you for that explanation. You went back way further than I
Sorry.
anticipated you would, but thank you, very thorough.
Could I ask for one clarification?
Certainly.
Just at the very end, just now you said that the public can, during citizen communication, they can speak on any item on the agenda. I just want to make it clear that they are not limited to the agenda during public hearing.
Absolutely.
Or citizen communication, I'm sorry.
Yes,
They
ma'am.
can speak on anything.
They can speak on any item they would like to, whether it's on the agenda or not.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, I believe there are no other items from council, so then we will move to citizens communication. And I have a few cards. We'll begin with Michael Vandora. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Vandora.
Mayor, Council, I'm Michael Vondro. I live at 2204 East North Street. Congratulations on Josephine Soliz retirement. brought her some snacks and stuff. And also, I want to congratulate Trish Hastings. She retired from Christ Kitchen and stuff, and appreciate all the work she's done and for the community. And she's worked very hard. And she's the one. She was the director. She's the one that implement the program where there's law enforcement that do security from 11 to 1. You know, to make it safe for people at Christ Kitchen. And also, I want to thank Attorney West, and I don't know if you know Attorney Lacey. And anyway, we need the legal department helping with the trailer park because there's a lot of water leaks, and one's like right by my trailer house, and I can't afford no $2,000 a month of water bill, you know. And that's why it's important to fix it, you know, because the meters are put on my trailer house, and I just can't afford $2,000 a month. And code enforcement, they did find the leak last Thursday, and there's just a big pile of dirt. You know, it's like 4 or 5 foot deep, and you know, lots of dirt. And management has had a problem of not taking care of problems. Last February, there was a leak, and there's still a whole bunch of dirt, and it's not taken care of, and it's about a 3 by 5 hole about a foot deep. And I would like management to take care of the problem because they're not doing their job. And instead of putting gravel or asphalt down on potholes, they put dirt. And a couple years ago, a city, Victoria, a garbage truck got stuck, and they had to call Allen's Wrecker to get it undone, you know, at the cost of the city of Victoria. And I would like a general manager and trailer park owner to take care of it. They haven't been doing a very good job. Thanks, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Vondra. Next card I have is Mr. Harley Fisk. Good evening, Mr. Fisk.
Good evening. Out of range. Mayor, city council members, and interested citizens. When I went to college back in the 60s, I was privileged to work on a little computer known as the IBM 360. It took up a space about a third as big as this room. It was the computer that NASA used to get us into space. Today, the average cell phone has greater computing capacity. It's often used as a babysitting device in place of human interaction. From a technological miracle to a child's toy, all in the space of my lifetime. I am not implying that the old times were better. They were different. Women could not get their own credit cards. Segregation was still prevalent in much of the country. A one-income family could generally afford to buy a home. Hitchhiking was considered a valid form of transportation. I grew up far from a public library, still managed to learn about diversity and equality at a young age. Times have changed. As I look back at last week's special council meeting, I am confused. The confusion is from hearing members of the community saying the library should follow some ideas that were in existence years ago, as though time and society have failed to march onward. Time has given us opportunities that we only dreamed of. If I can accept these changes, anyone can. I am confused on the difficulty that some have about council members and citizens on boards having to answer to anyone for their behavior. Perhaps in a perfect world, this would not be necessary, and everyone would put the good of the entire community in front of their private interests. Unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisk. And then I have Tony Vasquez. Good evening, Mr. Vasquez.
I wanted to be here to offer congratulations to the newest members of this council, Mrs. Butler, Mr. Kidder, welcome. And if I may, a request. Prove me wrong. I rarely like to stand corrected, but in this matter, I want nothing more than to be wrong about you. Please do not allow my suspicions to win out, predicting that your words and votes will be swayed by your associations and ties with particular characters and groups with plans and agendas. In my opinion, religion is very personal and should not be used here for performative acts in order to influence or threaten. Although it is regularly pushed that certain people are the majority and should be allowed to dictate to you as such, I beg to differ. Our city has a wide range of people and families, honest, strong, hardworking, of different races and beliefs, who do not wish to impose on the freedoms of their friends and neighbors, but who are also not able to spend hours here at public meetings to cheer themselves on and create spectacles, unlike a few who seem to have nothing but time and demands on their hands. If it's helpful to you, I offer my presence as an example of someone who exists outside of that alleged majority. Here I stand before you, a local Hispanic gay man, unmarried with no children, and not particularly religious for reasons of my own. But I get up every morning, Monday through Friday, and I go to work. I respect the law, I pay my taxes, I volunteer with nonprofits, and I try to be a helpful, contributing member of this community. And guess what? Even in being that alleged minority, I should matter to you nonetheless. As you sit there, whether I live in your area of representation or not, you represent me. You represent all of us. Try to keep that in mind as you make decisions that have consequences. Be the examples of unbiased leadership I hope you are. Lastly, I commend City Manager Jesus Garza and City Attorney Allison Lacey and Council for your work last week. I think your decisions were made in the right decision and going in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vasquez. So I have one other card, but I believe it's from Mr. Zapata, who's here to speak on the matter on the public hearing. So I will call you up at that time. Great. Moving on then, we will move to that very thing, items of public hearings. Item C1.
Item C1 is an ordinance amending a variance to section 14-10B of the city code for property located at 2804 North Florence Street, Suite 100 and Suite 200 to allow the sale of alcohol. This is the first reading.
Good evening, Mayor Crocker and Council. In May 2023, Mr. Zapata, owner of Mr. Getty's locally, asked council to grant a variance to allow him to sell alcohol at Mr. Getty's located at 2804 North Lawrence Street. The variance was granted at that time for the sale of wine and malt beverages at his restaurant. So today he's here again to ask for another variance and actually an amendment to that particular variance to section 14-10B of the city code to allow for the sale of alcohol at 2804 North Lawrence Street, Suite 200. So he has split the building. So Suite 100 has Mr. Getty's, the restaurant, and Suite 200 he's going to try to open a venue there. So just a little bit of background. The variance procedures for a liquor license could be thought of as an exception to the regulations in city code. The process for applying for many variances is actually spelled out in city code, such as driveways, setbacks, things like that, that are brought before you as a resolution. In this case, the variance is not specified, the variance process, so therefore we bring it to you as an ordinance to make an exception to the city code. And applicants requesting a variance to obtain a liquor license are asked to write a letter, which was included in the packet, requesting the variance, and then staff presents it to you. And the requester may state their case during the public hearing, which Mr. Zapata will do later today. So, as I said, Mr. Zapata, the franchisee of Mr. Getty's, is asking for a variance to be located for the sale of alcoholic beverages. He is requesting a variance to allow the sale of alcohol now at the Z venue located at 2804 North Lawrence Street, Suite 200. It's, again, just to sell wine and malt beverages on premise, and the property is located less than 300 feet from the child care facility. Prior to city code changing in October of 2016, that prohibits the sale of alcoholic beverages within 300 feet of a child care facility, the location qualified for the sale of alcoholic beverages based on local and state regulations. So the city code now defines certain things that any establishment that sells alcohol has to be located a certain distance from. One of them is a child care facility, and we use the definition located in section 42-002 of the Texas Human Resources Code. So the definition is here for a child care facility or daycare center, and Tiny Sprouts Daycare, which is located on the same property, actually meets those definitions. So the city, in section 1410 of the city code, where that spells out that the measurement of distance between a place of business where an alcoholic beverage are sold from a school or child care facility, they measure in a direct line from the property line. In this instance, the child care facility is actually located on the same piece of property as noted here in this map. So the smaller yellow square is the daycare center. The larger one would be the building that houses Mr. Getty's and will eventually house Z Venue. And so they're really more than 300 feet apart, as you can see by that measurement. But because they're located on the same piece of property, there's the property line that's 0. When you measure it, is actually 0 feet. So there's another part of the code also. Oops. I think I messed that up. Can you kick me back, James? Thank you. There's a school across the street as well and you can see the measurements from front door to front door is even farther than the 320 feet there on this map. But there's also a school located in this, a Crane school is located across the street, which if you just measure the distance from the street, that is also less than 300 feet. And then there's a church located nearby as well. So on the dais tonight, there was a copy of a letter from Tiny Sprouts Daycare actually in support of the variance. And in the original variance request, Mr. Zapata also had a letter of support from them stating that they, were not opposing this variance at all. So, but if you have any questions, please let me know. And Mr. Zapata is here to speak on his behalf in the public hearing.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Hilberg? Okay. Mr. Zapata? Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Crocker, council members. My name is Lupe Zapata. I'm the managing member of Zapata Family LLC, and we did purchase the building, as she said, at 2804 North Laurent Street. The building is approximately 25,000 square feet. The plan was to open the restaurant, Mr. Getty's Pizza, using 12,500 square feet so that we could expand into the other side eventually. Well, when we had the building appraised, the appraisal company said they couldn't appraise half a building, that we would have to do the entire building in order for it to be appraised. So after some due diligence, we decided to move forward with the venue, being that it was the most cost-effective way for us to do it. In the near future, we can still move the restaurant into that side if we need to, and we do plan to do that. The restaurant has been very successful thanks to the community of Victoria. We're grateful for all of the support that they've given us. But as you well know, to have a venue, everybody's going to want to drink beer. And TABC is telling us we have an active liquor license now at the facility, but because it's a separate entity, Mr. Getty's Pizza and Z Venue, they're requesting that we redo our application and change the address from Mr. Getty's being at Suite 100 and the Z Venue being at Suite 200. So that's what I'm here for, to ask, and you're considering to give us the opportunity to sell liquor at that facility as well on the 200 side. And I thank you so much for your time and your consideration with this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Zapata. Is there anyone else that would wish to speak as part of the public hearing on this matter? Please come forward at this time. Seeing none, then I will close the public hearing and entertain any motions with respect to item C1.
Make a motion to amend the variance at section 1410B.
I'll second.
Got a motion to approve in a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, item C1 passes, and this was first reading, so we will have, okay, 2 more. They'll probably be combined at the next meeting, so. All right, moving on then, the consent agenda, and just a reminder that item D3 was pulled from that. Ms. Hilberg.
Item D1 is the adoption of minutes of the regular meeting held on May 7th, 2024. Item D2 is an ordinance amending Chapter 21, the Unified Development Ordinance of the City of Victoria Code of Ordinances. This item is on second and third reading. Item D3 was pulled. Item D4, a resolution approving the purchase of Class A vehicle extraction prop from American Fire Training Systems Incorporated in the amount of $59,783.59. Item D5 is a resolution designated the city manager as the authorized official to approve the fiscal year 2025 Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority grant, designating Sergeant Robert Rogers as the program director for the grant and designating the Chief Financial Officer Gilbert P. Reyna Jr., CPA, as the financial officer for the grant. And item D6 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Texas Parks and Wildlife Department for a grant awarding the amount of $84,500 that requires a cost share from the city in the amount of $21,125.
Thank you, Ms. Hilbert. I'll entertain any motions with respect to the consent agenda.
I move we adopt the consent agenda.
I second it.
I've got a motion and a second for adoption of the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. We have no action items for council discussion. Taking it easy on you guys, first meeting, so. And we will move then into city manager report. Mr. Garza.
Good evening. Congratulations. Welcome aboard. We're going to start you strong with a couple of really great presentations tonight. First, we're going to hear from our outside auditor on our fiscal year 23 annual comprehensive financial report. And I will turn over to Wesley, our finance director, to introduce.
Could you wait just a minute? James, I'm having technical difficulties over here.
Okay. Having technical difficulties.
Yes, I am.
Is any other council?
Sometimes I have regular difficulties, but you won't.
Is
You
other
wouldn't work for me.
council members able to?
He has a magic touch.
Okay. Yeah, we need that for this one. This one's given us problems since our last council meeting.
I hate to say operator error, but, you know. Anyway. Everybody good?
Yeah.
Works? Okay, thank you. Please proceed. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we're going to be presenting a report on the audit of the city's financial statements for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2023. Harrison, Waldrop, and Uherrick performed our audit. We've posted a copy of it to the website and sent out to the appropriate agencies to comply with all filing requirements. Melissa Terry is the engagement partner. She's here with from HWU to give you an overview of the audit process and the report.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you, Wesley. Yes, my name is Melissa Terry. I'm a CPA and a partner with the firm of Harrison, Waldrop, and Uherrick, and we are located here in Victoria. And I'm here to present the audit results for the city's fiscal year ended September 30th, 2023 audit. I don't know if y'all have any questions before I start, as the audit has been posted on the website. So before I begin, you'll have any questions? No? Okay. So first I'm going to introduce, I introduce myself, but I'll also introduce, I'm sorry. I'll also introduce, where's the, can you push this one?
I'm not the only one that has technical difficulties.
You're redeemed.
Sorry.
You know, you thought you were going to get out early.
Not going to happen. Well, while we're waiting, I'd like to make a comment. Anybody who's really interested in what's going on in the city and the area, especially about economic development, it's a very long document, but if you read it, it's very comprehensive. You can find out a lot of things that are going on at the port, everywhere. It's a very interesting document.
I agree. I'll hit some little highlights. This is the city's 39th consecutive year to issue a comprehensive annual financial report, which is now called an annual comprehensive financial report. They submit it to the GFOA for the award. The comprehensive it's comprehensive because there's many sections in the report that are not required. The introductory section is what Councilmember Laughlin was addressing. It addresses a lot of the economic, what's going on within the city and the area. So that section is the introductory section, and also the statistical section, which is at the end of the report. There's 10 years of information and some comparative information, which is really good to review. Okay. So first, I want to introduce myself, but also introduce the individuals that work with me on the team. Then I'll go through the audit process, the results of our audit, any required communications that are contained in the report. I'll go over some financial highlights that are contained in the report, and then take any questions. As Wesley stated, I am the engagement partner on the audit. I work extensively in governmental accounting and auditing, and I have for many, many years. My audit supervisor that works by my side, her name is Elizabeth Norden, and then we have other support staff. As mentioned, her and I do work extensively in the area of governmental accounting and auditing. Our firm staff receives the required continuing education hours that's required by the AICPA and the GAO. In addition, our firm participates in the peer review program. This program is required by any auditors or firms that work on attest engagements. We do that every 3 years. The peer review is a review of our quality control procedures, the firm's quality control procedures, the services we perform, and the products that we produce, that they meet the required standards. And we just went through our peer review in 2023. Whoops. Oh, gosh. Sorry. There it goes. Okay. So at the conclusion of one audit, we start the process of the next audit. It's almost an annual process. So after tonight, we'll issue our engagement letter. Between now and before we start planning the audit, we discuss with city staff or any developments or issues that arise that are going to be applicable for the audit. Beginning in about August of every year, we do audit planning. Our fieldwork procedures, which are in-house or on city premises, begin in about September, and we do those for about 5 months, and we end in about January. We go in and do extensive test work on many areas of the city, and then we conclude in January. And then from January until April, we're doing putting together the extensive report. Between us and city staff, it takes a lot of manpower to do that. And so our report was issued, the date of the opinion letter was dated April 22nd, 2024. And tonight, then I am presenting the report. The audit results, we have issued our report on the city's financial statements, and it's an unqualified opinion or a clean opinion. And this opinion is the same form of opinion that the city has received in the past. It's the highest form of assurance that I, as a CPA, can give the city that the financial statements are materially correct. We issued no management letter, so there were no findings, material weaknesses, or significant deficiencies noted within the city. As mentioned earlier during a little break, the city does submit for the GFOA award to the Government Finance Officers Association, and the city has received that in 39 consecutive years. As looking in the report, that is on the certificate for the September 30th, 2022 report is on Roman numeral 15. As mentioned earlier, there are required communication as us as auditors that we submit, that we can include in the report. And one begins on page 1 of the report. It's the first letter. There are 3 letters that are in the annual financial report, and it's the first one on our letterhead. And this is where we stated that we issued an unmodified or a clean opinion. And one thing I wanted to point out, the financial statements are the responsibility of the City of Victoria. Our audit is designed in accordance with the generally accepted auditing standards and the standards applicable to financial audits contained in the government auditing standards. Our responsibility is to express an opinion about whether the financial statements prepared by management with your oversight are fairly presented in all material respects. Contained in that letter, and as also in the other letter, we disclosed that there were no fraud, irregularities, or illegal acts noted. There were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. Because the city expends more than $750,000 in federal dollars, we also have to do what we call a single audit on the city's financial statements. And that is, our opinion is also a clean opinion, and that is on page 267 of the report. There were no noted non-compliance issues with the audit. This year we did we reviewed the compliance and the controls over the grant of the ARPA grant. Other significant audit matters in our communications that are noted that we encountered no significant difficulties, there were no independence issues. We are not aware of any management consulting with other accountants. There were no uncorrected misstatements. And also, just to note that the city was required to to adopt a new GASB statement, which is 96 for the subscription-based technology agreements. And those had no impact on the city's financial statements for fiscal year 23. Some financial highlights to note. We're going to really just address the 3 major funds of the city, one being the general fund, then the water fund, and the environmental services fund. This graph depicts the fund balance and the net position. And as addressed in the note on the bottom, the net position for the water and the environmental services fund, I need to note that this net position differs from the working capital that's seen in the city's budget documents. And we're going to see that on a successive slide. In the general fund, the fund balance for fiscal year ended September 30th, 2023 was $23.26 million for the audit, which is a $2.5 million increase over 2022. The water fund net position increased up to $99 million from a $95 million net position. And the environmental services fund saw a slight decrease of a little less than $200,000 from $745,000 to $763,000, or $7.4 million to $7.63 million. The general fund balance, as stated earlier, saw an increase from 20.8 million up to 23.26 million. That's a $2.5 million increase. What's shown in this graph is the portion of the fund balance which is designated for carried over purchase orders, which will be paid in the subsequent fiscal year. So there was an $18,000 decrease in the amount designated for carryovers of purchase orders for from fiscal year 23 to 22. On the next slide, as mentioned, is the working capital. As seen in the city's budget documents, we show the water fund and the environmental services fund. As of September 30th, the water fund had the $16.18 million compared to the prior year working capital of $13.89 million. And the environmental services fund was $10.93 million compared to $10.87 million in fiscal year 22. A three-year comparison of major revenue categories. In the first three columns, we show the property tax. This property tax is depicted, it just shows the general fund. There was an increase in general fund property tax revenue of $17.3 million, up to $18.6 million. Sales tax revenue from $19.3 to $20.4. And then franchise had a slight increase up to $6 million. Water sales increased to, well, had a slight decrease, but it showed it amount of $26.6 million. And then solid waste collections were $6.2 million. A three-year comparison of operating expenditures and expenses. General fund had a reported expenses for the fiscal year of $52 million compared to $49 million in the previous year. And the water fund, $21 to $20 million. And then environmental services saw an increase from 4.5 up to $6 million. About 20 pages, which are included in the financial section of the report, is called the management's discussion analysis. And I didn't mention that earlier. I mentioned the introductory section, the statistical section. But this part of the report provides an overall review of the city's financial activities for the fiscal year. So there are a lot of things in the report. It's just a lot of numbers, and then the notes to the financial statements are just a little bit, or explanations of those numbers. But again, don't really get into the true explanation. We show what the background of it is, but don't explain why things happened or what is included in those increases and decreases in capital assets and the changes in long-term debt. The management's discussion analysis, though 20 pages, are very good information. You can read that and you'll understand what happened within the city. That it's brief, but it's really good information. This section of the report, it provides financial highlights, economic data to assess the financial condition of the city, and helps the readers understand the government accounting and how it is applied to each fund. There's a lot of comparison because there's comparative information for the governmental activities and the business type activities. It's the only place you're going to see a comparative information is in there. And then also information on the major funds and the reasons for the increases and decreases. This is a required section in the report. A lot of the financial information, the auditing information, we input management, Wesley and his staff, and Gilbert, they put in the bulk of the information, kind of explain what we've already audited. And these are the numbers, this is what we came up with, and now tell us why. And it provides you as the readers, and those bond rating agencies and other individuals not in Texas, wherever, if they're in New York, California, to look at the city's financial statements and understand what's going on. As a GFOA reviewer that I am, I review reports from all over the United States, and that's a good, to understand what happened. That's where you go to. And so it's a lot of good information, and I just, a lot of good things happening in the city right now. And I appreciate Wesley and all his staff for all their work. It's a lot of work that goes into this, to the report and to our audit. As you see in our timeline, it's almost a 12-month process. So again, there's the financial condition of the city is looking good, and there were no findings to note. So open to any questions at this time.
Anybody have any questions?
I have a question of Wesley. On page 103, it talks about the fund balance, and it shows a fund balance for 23 of a certain amount. Is there no outstanding things that would affect, is that the actual fund balance, or do we still have some outstanding things that will lower that fund balance number?
That number will include any carryovers we have. Any of the encumbrances that get carried over will be in that number. So in this case, it was.
What I'm saying is.
Yeah, but I think to clarify your question, when we adopted the fiscal year 24 budget.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah, we already accounted for staff's estimate on what that carryover would be.
Right.
And so I want to make that clear.
No,
because I know that, fiscal year 23.
I was going to get there. You're just,
Okay.
You're ahead of me here.
Sorry.
What I want to know is how much is encumbered is there anything encumbered on this $23 million number?
Yes. Yes.
Right. How much?
900,000. It was
900,000?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
But I want to point out, even if 900,000, and yes, we do the budget before we know what real ending balance, we have to estimate what the ending balance is going to be, but we're going to have some extra money because we've actually, the city has done a good job budgeting, and so we're going to have some extra money.
Yeah, well, remember on that.
Yes and no.
Yes and no, why? Are you going to use the
yes
money?
and no to his question.
Yeah, that's a good introduction to my comment, is that you should recall that we just did the 24 budget. In that budget, you have a large amount of one-time expenditures. Where the money came from your 23 excess fund balance. In addition to that, recall, Council, you contributed $1 million to the stabilization fund. Where that money come from? From that excess. So, it's not like we just leave it there. We'll make sure, and in 24, you're going to see the same thing in 25 when we start talking 25.
I know you won't leave it there.
No, but there's
Yeah,
a
we
lot of
use it.
challenges to that.
Yeah, and another example of that is, obviously as we enter a new fiscal year and the actual number of the previous fiscal year starts to become more clear, well, as we approach these one-time expenditures in the active fiscal year, sometimes things cost more than what we anticipated. And so this additional excess that ends up coming out of the audit, we do end up encumbering throughout the existing fiscal year as things come in higher than what we planned. They help absorb those types of things that we can't control.
Now, just hang on, I assume.
Oh, we can hear you.
You can.
Yeah.
You can hear me every time, anyway. But I will give you this. I do intentionally make sure our reserves are adequate. As our budget increases, I feel prudent to increase those reserves to have that extra cushion. So you can go back 3 years and just gauge your budget overall, has it gone up? And you can see your same trend happens to your working capital fund balance, because that's the best way to practice. It's like any personal operating business in the private sector.
And I appreciate that.
Any other questions? All right. Thank y'all so much. I know that there's a lot of work that goes into this, as you mentioned, and you guys always do a great job. And to Gilbert, Wesley, and y'all's team, I know that's a lot of work for you guys as well, and we appreciate it. And thanks for the presentation.
Thank you. All right, so moving on to the second city manager's report. This is an update on our capital improvement plan. I know that you must be thinking, gosh, didn't we just talk about this? But normally, it's our normal standard procedure to, at the second meeting in May, to confirm what that capital improvement plan is gonna be moving forward so that we can utilize that figure and input it into our preliminary budget that we'll present at the end of June. And obviously, ultimately, that gets proposed in August. Couple of things of note before I turn it over to David is that tonight's presentation will be very detailed. We passed out a detailed document. It'll be detailed for the next fiscal years, 3 fiscal years, I should say. You may recall that we were contemplating going back to having a 5-year CIP. And after reflecting on it, I felt that it was appropriate to stick to a formalized 3-year CIP rather than forcing a lot of specificity in the outer 2 years because there's still a lot of unknown variables from the cost of those improvements to other things that we're still exploring because there's just a lot of things going on, right? And so tonight's presentation will be specific for the next 3 fiscal years and then simply hit broadly on those key projects for fiscal years 28 and 29. And ultimately, we're looking for a head nod from council that you're okay with this 3-year CIP program.
All right, thank you. Good evening, how are you?
I'm doing fine. I hope y'all are doing well also.
Thank you.
Tonight I'll be presenting the update for the capital improvements plan. This was promised to y'all back at the April 16th council meeting. As part of this update, I will provide you a brief update on the fiscal year 24 CIP, as well as an overview for the CIP funding for fiscal years 25 through 27. Then I plan to present more detailed information on the projects for each year, 25, 26, and 27. And then, as Jesus mentioned, we'll bring up and discuss a little bit about the project considerations for fiscal years 28 and 29. Fiscal year 24 CIP update, Pleasant Green Drive. This is the segment between Juan Lynn to Port Lavaca Highway. This project has been bid, and we plan to bring a recommendation for award to council at the June 4th meeting. The Tanglewood subdivision Phase 1, the utilities construction are almost complete. There's still doing some tie-overs to some of the new lines to the existing lines. And we have will be advertising as of this weekend for the street and drainage improvements for Phase 1. Those bids will be opened on June 12th, and we will be anticipate bringing them to council in July for recommendation for award. College Park subdivision, the utility work is almost complete. The last major item of work is the bore under the railroad, and all approvals have been achieved or issued for that. I'm not sure just when that is going to begin that actual work on that. The street and drainage improvements, we are anticipating a bid opening in late August at this time. Riverside Park boat ramp and kayak takeout point. I bring this up because in the consent agenda, council agreed to execute a contract with Texas Parks and Wildlife for the design of these improvements. Once those design is completed, then the city can put in another application for construction funds. At this time, we don't know when that would be awarded, but that would be something that will be going forward in the future. This slide is presenting the overview of the fiscal year 25 through 27 funding and is the same information as presented on the cover sheet of the handout that was distributed prior to council meeting. For fiscal year 25, we're proposing to expend $40.52 million on the capital improvements projects, $32.94 million in fiscal year 26, and $24.72 million in fiscal year 27. Of the $40.52 million in fiscal year 25, 24%, or $9.67 million, will be spent on residential street improvements. 23%, or $9.36 million, will be spent on a residential street and drainage project at Lone Tree Acres. Another $8.59 million, or 21% of that amount, will be spent on thoroughfare improvement projects. We will also expend 14%, or $5.8 million, on utility projects. Another $6 million will be spent for utilities, SCADA system. This is going to be funded through the CDBG MIT grant. And there will be another $1.1 million spent on other projects, which we'll explain later. The fiscal year 25 residential street projects, we will be doing a number of seal coat and onyx applications. We'll begin at Windcrest Addition, Holt Road, Hartman Road, and Sparkman Road. Leary Lane from Sam Houston to Stockbauer. Sabine Street, Trinity Street, and Brazos Street from Navarro to Laurent. And the Boulevard Addition. Then there will also be some mill and overlay projects as part of this residential street improvements. Murray Street from Navarro to Moody Street. Avenue C, Krause Street, Power Avenue, and Meyer Street from North Street to the end of those streets. Burroughsville Road will be a reclamation, or we will reclaim and overlay for that improvements on that project. That will run from Highway 59 Business to Lone Tree Road. And Lone Tree Acres, which is the residential street drainage project, the $9.36 million. That'll be funded by the CDBG MIT. This will also with this project will be a major outfall ditch. Bon Air Street reconstruction, phase 1. Currently, the utilities for Bon Air subdivision are under construction. The utilities were bid as a whole, and the work started along Laurent Street on the west side, and we're working to the east. Once we get past Azalea Street, we will be advertising for bids for the street work, where we can begin the street work for Azalea to the east and north of Loma Vista. Thoroughfare Street projects in 2025 were proposed. Millette Drive from Briggs Boulevard to Ball Airport Road. Huvar Street from Navarro to Dairy Road. Ben Jordan from Sam Houston to Loop 63. John Stockbauer Airline to Ben Jordan. Ben Wilson, Houston Highway to Rio Grande. Delmar Street from North Street to Pleasant Green. And Odom Street from Laurent to Port Lavaca Highway. Utility projects that are proposed for 2025 are the Dairy Road Waterline Abandonment. This section has two parallel 16-inch water lines that run from Dairy Road to John Stockbauer. Rather than have to maintain two lines, we're going to abandon one of those and put all the services on the one line. That'll be less maintenance work for the city utility crews. Mockingbird sewer line replacement. This will be a contract for design of these improvements with the construction to take place in fiscal year 26. Airline Road sewer line abandonment. We refer it to Airline Road simply because the sewer lines in this instance are on either side of Airline Road and backyard easements. The plan is to abandon those sewer lines, construct new sewer lines in Manor Drive and lost my train of thought, and replumb the houses from sewer service from back to the front where the new sewer lines are going to be.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The Mockingbird sewer line is from,
It is from Navarro to Lilac Street. There's a 15-inch concrete sewer line that has potential for catastrophic collapse. And we're hoping to replace it or rehabilitate it before that occurs. Anthony Road sewer line replacement. This will be for a sewer line replacement on Anthony Road and part of Henselman. Avenue D sewer rehabilitation. Avenue D sewer was noted in the I&I study as a segment that needed to have a rehabilitation performed. The sewer line was going to need to be rehabilitated. Previously, in fiscal year 24 had Avenue D pavement, street improvements to be constructed, a reconstruction project on Avenue D. It did not make sense to reconstruct the street to only come back in another year and tear it up to rehab the sewer line. So we pushed the paving project back, and we're going to move Avenue D sewer rehabilitation into fiscal year 25. Northeast Street water line replacement. This is the this is on Water Street running from, I believe it's East Street, Cameron Street, under the railroad, and up to Juan Lynn. Sycamore and Willow Street water line replacement. This is a contract for the design. And the regional wastewater treatment plant headwork screen, design of that project also. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question on the slide before we got to the drainage ones, and it's a specific one on Ben Jordan, Sam Houston to Loop 463.
Don't go back.
Yeah, don't go back. Just it's number 6 on the chart that we have. Ben Jordan, I guess M&O is that mill and overlay?
Yes, ma'am. That indicates mill and overlay.
And so the question is whether I don't know whether mill and overlay is more complex or more robust than I think it is, but will that fix that street? Will it hold, or does it need more than that?
We believe that it will hold.
Okay.
Even based upon the study that was done by Flood Ace, where the street was cored and we determined the asphalt thickness as well as the base thickness, their recommendations were that a mill and overlay is all that was needed to be.
Well, that's fantastic then. All right, thank you.
Well, and also to be clear, we typically also, if there has to be base point repairs in certain sections, in small pockets, those also get addressed before.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
The other projects that'll be undertaken in fiscal year 25 will be the 4th year of the city street lighting LED replacement project. Also, a pre-design work for City Hall and 700 main buildings for remodel, $350,000 allocated for that. And also $500,000 for a citywide ERP software project. I'm going to let Wesley Janacek explain what this is.
I never heard of this.
All right, so real quick, ERP, which stands for Enterprise Resource Planning, is basically our accounting system that we use. Currently, it's SAP. We use it for accounting, purchasing, and fixed assets, but it has enough additional modules where it could be used for actually much more. We implemented SAP about 25 years ago, and it's reached its end of life. I believe it's December 2025. So if you remember during last year's workshop in James's budget presentation, we talked about hiring a consultant to help us with the solicitation process for an ERP, which we did hire in October. So to this point, we've gone through, we've issued that RFP, we've gotten responses back and put together a short list for demos that will occur in July, and then we'll come back later this fiscal year to discuss the cost of that project and how we plan to fund it. But it would be implemented over 3 years, so you'll see funding on this particular project in 3 years of the capital improvement plan.
And to add on to that, we've been anticipating this expense. We just simply had left it out of including it in a CIP presentation. So to be clear, our inclusion of it into the presentation isn't because there isn't money anticipated for it, or because we're having to shift other projects or cancel the projects. We just simply hadn't included it into the CIP presentation until now.
And one thing on that too, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but shifting that program will eliminate the need to have multiple different types or different vendors for different programs, and we're really
That's
kind of
correct.
consolidating multiple, software programs into a single system
Yeah.
with the hopes of kind of streamlining that, is the way I understand it.
Yeah, correct.
100%.
And just to carry on with what the city manager was talking about, we knew about this not overnight. For 3 years, 4 years, we knew this was coming across. So we've been planning on it from a financial perspective. We've been seeing money on the side, it's interest income, just holding it back because we know this is a project about a $1.5 million over a 3-year span. But the way I look at it, when I was acquired SAP, maybe it's not the best thing now to buy, but back in before the 2000 year, it cost us $1.2 million SAP back then. And we're getting something for about 1.5 in the cloud. That's a hell of a deal, just a $300,000 change from over the 20-something years. That's not a bad trade. But not only this.
SAP now would be 10 to 15 million though.
And they're going to force us to go into the cloud, and it's not sustainable. But the big thing I like about this, but not only thing about integration, I wish I had this 20 years ago, to make my life easier, less gray hair. But maintenance, it's going to change dynamically for the city. All these costs, it's hopefully I'm not talking too far ahead. Just that it minimize that cost to a lower level. That's what the big bang here, moving forward.
Thank you for that.
David, let's go straight to the other slides, because they hit on the amounts as well.
Okay. Fiscal year 26 residential street projects, we're anticipating to spend $12.09 million. Seal coat projects will include Terra Vista subdivision, Salem Crossing subdivision, Greenway Park, and Sam Houston Heights. Bottom Street from South Street to city limits. Then will be some mill and overlay projects on Power Street from West to Williams, Liberty Street, Church to Power, West Commercial Street from Moody to the end, west to the end, Bridge Street from Convent to Water, and Church Street from Main to William. And there will be a reconstruction of the Benchmark alleyway. Bonaire Street reconstruction phase 2 will take place in fiscal year 26. This will be the section from Azalea Street west. Thoroughfare projects proposed for fiscal year 26. Edinburgh from Joplin to Navarro. Ball Airport from Millette to Glasgow. Glasgow from Simpson Road to Stonegate Drive. Maori Lane from Stockbauer to Sam Houston. Lone Tree Creek from Lone Tree Creek to Delmar. Hanselman Road from Highway 59 to Delmar Drive. Ben Jordan from Lawrence Street to Bottom Street. And the reconstruction of Wagner Way, Lingo Lane, and Magruder Drive. The design and right-of-way acquisition for Guy Grant improvements from Salem to Mockingbird will take place in 26, as will the North Street Phase 3A and 3B design and right-of-way acquisition. For the new council members, Phase 3A and 3B is the segment from Lawrence Street to Ben Jordan Street.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
The Maori Lane, what kind of?
That will be a mill and overlay. I'm sorry, I did not stipulate that as I was calling them out.
That's concrete?
Yes.
And I'm not a road builder. I didn't realize that you mill and overlay concrete also.
You can.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Utility projects proposed for 26. The actual construction of the Mockingbird sewer line replacement. This is from Navarro to Lilac. The Airline Road sewer line abandonment. The Sycamore and Willow Street water line replacement, as well as the actual installation of the headwork screen at the regional wastewater treatment plant. Other projects under consideration in 26 are the 5th phase of the citywide street LED light replacement, possible construction of the boat ramp and kayak takeout project, the 2nd phase of the citywide ERP software project, and Children's Park and Splash Pad project, construction phase 1.
And where's that one to be located?
At the Children's Park, the splash pad will be across the drive where the parking area is for the Children's Park.
Okay, that's in Riverside Park.
That is, yes, ma'am, that's what, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And just real quick, before he begins fiscal year 27, up until this point, for the most part, all of the streets that David has discussed have been in the fiscal year 22 to fiscal year 26 CIP. And so while it's obviously a good thing to be reminded of those streets, I think it's important to note that we made it a point when we adopted the fiscal year 22 CIP to ensure that the streets that we committed to do in that time window, we would do. And so we're achieving that with the streets that are going to be in fiscal year 25 and 26. So I just want to make that known.
Hey, David, I had a question. You talked about West Commercial
Yes, sir.
from Moody to the end.
Yes, sir.
But looking ahead, I did look ahead, the 16-inch water line that you're going to do on West Commercial as well. So why are we doing I was just questioning about a road before doing the 16-inch water line.
That is a good point. And
That's one of those we will adjust.
Okay.
If we'll do the water line and then do the street.
we can.
Thank you.
Pull out that segment of the street and push it back to.
I mean, I want the road done.
Yes. But you don't want it torn up to replace the water line after that's done, right?
I live on Commercial.
The proposed residential street projects for
We'll
fiscal
pull
year
both projects
27.
from the list then.
Yeah.
Didn't ask for any favors, I just wanted.
You are the mayor pro tem.
We're proposing seal coat projects at Red River Heights, which is east of the UHV campus, Bronson Terrace subdivision, which is north of the Victoria College UHV campus, East Side Addition, which is to the east side of Ben Wilson Street, and in Springwood subdivision, we're proposing a reconstruction of Wild Rose Street, Summit View, and Parkview Street. Proposed thoroughfare projects in 27, which will North Street, Phase 3A from Lawrence Street to Avenue C. John Stockbauer from Ben Jordan to Mockingbird, that will be a mill and overlay, as will John Stockbauer from Mockingbird to Salem.
Could we back up?
Yes, ma'am.
Or you don't necessarily have to back up. I know that you just said that in the Springwood subdivision that there would be some reconstruction.
Yes, ma'am.
Certainly all of this has been laid out well before I took this seat, since it happened, 45 minutes ago. But Tonto Circle, is that anywhere, has that been looked at?
Tonto Circle is across the
It's directly
Main
across the
from that.
street, the potholes on
Brought to my
that.
attention just yesterday, day before.
Okay.
I actually drove it the other day. Right now, it's not on our list. It doesn't mean it could not be, the list could not be amended and that could be added. I just need to take a good look at it in terms of what type of construction I think we need to do over there.
All right, and yeah, one of the things too to keep in mind is in that particular street is that the road is very narrow. And so oftentimes when we look at rebuilding streets, we have to also look at what are we rebuilding and to what standard. And so oftentimes these very narrow streets, can get complicated to address because we then have to intentionally decide if we want to build it back or fix it and keep it at its existing width that may or may not meet the code of truly having vehicular traffic on it. And so we will need some time to explore what can be done in this particular street from a just application standpoint. What does it need? Does it need a reconstruct or just a reclaim? And what, if anything, can be done about the width? So we'll explore it, but it hadn't made a list yet.
Thank you for addressing it. Appreciate that.
So on the 3 streets I know in Springwood that are for reconstruction, which they should be because those are in terrible shape, but is there going to be any additional utility work related to that? I see Ken shaking his head no. Okay.
Utility projects for fiscal year '27. Guy Grant Road utilities from Mockingbird to Salem. This will be the first phase of the Guy Grant Road improvements. A 20-inch water line on Airline from Laurent to Bend, Jordan is proposed to be replaced. The utilities for North Street Phase 3A from Laurent to Avenue C. Replacing the 16-inch cast iron water line on Constitution, Craig, Forest, Washington, and Commercial Streets. Dr. Young, this is the project that you were discussing. The
Yes, sir.
previous year was the design. This would be the actual construction. We could probably stage it to do the water line first, then come in and still do that street improvement project after that.
That makes sense. Thank you.
And the installation of the regional wastewater treatment plant headwork screen. Let me back up. Also, as part of the utility projects will be a citywide I&I SSES manhole rehabilitation project. These manholes were identified as part of the I&I study performed by RJN. Fiscal year 2027 other projects. The last phase of the citywide ERP software project. Fiscal year 28-29 CIP projects that are going to be I'm drawing a blank on the word I'm looking for, but anyway, the next phase of North Street, Phase 3B. The design will have already been completed previous in 26. So the utilities can be constructed from Avenue C to Bend, Jordan in fiscal year 28 with the streets and drainage improvements and sidewalks in fiscal year 29. Guy Grant Street should be constructed in fiscal year 28. The utilities having been constructed the prior year.
I believe it when I see it.
Other projects that are on the horizon, have to work out funding sources and funding amounts. Next phase of the I&I study recommended projects for mainline rehabilitation in 28, sewer service line replacement in 29. Additional improvements to the regional wastewater treatment plant is the primary treatment structure. It's grit removal. With a lot of the I&I infiltration inflow that gets into the sewer system, that's basically surface water that gets into your sanitary sewer. It washes in a lot of grit, sand, dirt. The grit removal system at the beginning of the plant will capture that and remove it, so does not get into the treatment units to be deposited in there and create issues. Construction of previously designed parks projects. MLK Park improvements. This project of park improvements was recommended as part of the park study, as was the Riverside Park Sidewalk and Trail Project. Any questions?
We will continue to seek out any grant funding opportunities for any of these projects.
100%.
Thank you.
Especially the parks-related projects. Those certainly are the easiest to pursue grants for. And that's certainly what we intend to do.
And Guy Grant, maybe a trail grant?
Great question. Yeah, we have pursued that. We're actually in the middle of pursuing a grant opportunity that will not only help with the trail aspect that's associated to Guy Grant, but actually improve the entire linear park system that it connects to.
I have a question on some streets that we haven't talked about, which are in the Tanglewood subdivision. I'm glad to see Phase 1 still moving ahead. And as I had communicated with you, I drove through all of the streets yesterday to look at the condition of the streets in Phase 1. And first of all, I really, while it wasn't you, it may have been Ken, I want to applaud you on your choices of Phase 1, because those are certainly the streets that need the most work. And it's clear that the utility work is ongoing, so that makes a lot of sense. And I began to understand Phase 2 and Phase 3. But honestly, Phase 3, there were some streets that I'm worried about that look, they're, so cracked that I can see them starting to flake out. And so I was just, because they're not on these road maintenance at all, I'm just not sure whether the entire subdivision does need to be rebuilt, or whether we can get another 10 years out of some of those streets by moving up some of the maintenance on them. And that may or may not make sense in the grand scheme of things, but I wanted to bring it up for you to evaluate or for city council discussion.
Yes, ma'am.
So for context, right, the original plan for the neighborhood was to completely reconstruct the entire neighborhood, including the utilities.
Right.
And so we began with Phase 1, as you suggest. So up until this point, our position on that neighborhood had been that continues to be that it needs to be reconstructed.
Okay.
Now
But
we
we're
can
out to 20.
we can certainly revisit the game plan for how we address the streets that are remaining after Phase 1 to see what, if anything, can be done. At this point, whatever that is, wouldn't happen until fiscal year 28 or 29. Unless council wants to move some projects out of fiscal year 25, 26, or 27. What we're seeking guidance on is fiscal year 25 for sure, 26 and 27. We're not at the point where we're seeking clear confirmation, decision-making on 28 and 29. So if your intent is to try and have us reassess how to address the neighborhood for fiscal years 28 and 29, there's time to do that. If your intent is to try and have a conversation with your colleagues around shifting projects around to include these streets in Tanglewood in fiscal year 25, 26, or 27, then that's different. And that would be something that you would have to discuss ASAP.
Exactly, and I realize that we don't have all the information that we need to discuss shifting them, because we don't exactly know what might work. But Tanglewood, was broken into phases. We got Phase 1 going, and then Phases 2 and 3 have disappeared, and they're off in Netherland, or the Netherlands again, Neverlands, whatever the word is. And so I'm trying to see if there is something, and it is something for council discussion. But unfortunately, yes, I just came up with this yesterday.
Yeah,
and
it's difficult to have a discussion when none of us have seen what you've seen.
Well, but let me add a couple of I think elements to this topic that I think are relevant, especially for our new council members, to gain a holistic picture as to why it is that Tanglewood's Phase 2 and 3 have not been discussed or incorporated. And so the cost for Phase 1 of Tanglewood was, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was, I think, $4 million for utilities, right? Yes. And then the streets could probably gonna be $7 million. So you're looking at an $11 million Phase 1 for Tanglewood. Now, we've presented, and Gilbert has presented, our debt capacity situation moving forward. And as I've alluded to, and I've sent information to council, but I think it warrants saying it out loud, our debt availability in fiscal years 27, 20, and 29 does not create the financial capacity to absorb that project. So for example, fiscal year 27, 20, and 29, each roughly have a CIP of 25 million. The CO bond aspect of that is 10 million that we're accounting for. Utilities is 5.6, VS3C 5 million, and then the general fund excess cash, that we produce 3.6. So if we were to, and the street program that he just recommended was 4-point-something million. For the
4.1
Yeah,
approximately.
4.2 for the residential street program in fiscal year 27. If we were to take on Tanglewood Phase 2, Phase 3, it would literally absorb all of the money that we're going to have available in those years. And so to be clear, the reason why Tanglewood phases, specifically Phase 2, because that'd be the next one, was not included is because of the cost. And the cost not matching up with the available funds. Now, if council would prefer to put all our eggs in the basket to address Tanglewood Phase 2, we can do that. But that's not the approach that we took leading into this conversation. And so I think that context is important because it was definitely a financial driven decision to not look at incorporating Phase 2 at this time.
And I think that's consistent with prior discussions on the same topic at previous meetings, was that, hey, we need to spread this around because there are other areas throughout the city that need the same type of help and need that. So but from my standpoint, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'll let you finish.
No, I mean, from my standpoint, I think that is our option. If Tanglewood becomes, if Phase 2, Phase 3, whatever becomes it, then that's all we're gonna do. Versus there's areas throughout the city that we could address and take on these larger projects, just like we're doing with Guy Grant and with North Street, kind of as we can, when we can, knowing that we're gonna have to plan for. So
Now, that's also not to say that we can't, go back to the drawing board, right? And figure out, okay, do you take the remaining streets and split them up into 4 or 5 phases, instead of 2? We just haven't done the legwork, to get to that point because our focus has been fiscal year 25, 26, and 27.
I think that's fair, and you're right. And it sort of leads to another thought, which is that I think in the past, in the distant past, they sort of did one street at a time, and that really didn't seem to be efficient, and started doing entire subdivisions, which has worked very well for us. I hate to say we're getting caught up, because I'm not sure we are, but I think we are kind of at a place where maybe taking lesser numbers of streets within a subdivision might make sense again. There might be some places where we just need to look at one street. I don't know what the efficiencies are of that in terms of bidding.
Yeah, no, and that's a fair point, and I think that's done the Spring Creek one. There's obviously more streets there, but the 3 specific ones that are in the worst shape, are the ones that kind of taken out. And of course, we got to remember too, I know looking back, we had certain plans, we had certain processes. Our materials costs and the cost of doing these streets has gone up exponentially over the course of the last several years. And quite frankly, I think it has to change your assessment to your point of, okay, we can't do an entire huge chunk of a subdivision. We may have to break it down into smaller phases, just strictly based on we can't do as much with the same dollars as we could even as recently as a couple of years ago.
Right, exactly. And like I said, we can go back to the drawing board and figure out a different approach to it that isn't what's been talked about up to this point. But again, that wouldn't be something that we'd even have the financial capacity to consider until the outer fiscal years.
I have a question. Wait. I know we're only talking about 25, 27, but what would you estimate how much we would have in 2028?
Same. So 28 total funding for CIP is 24.7. 2029 is 25.6 million.
Okay.
Well, let me, full disclosure. I made a presentation to council back in December, the presentation debt capacity. We had a philosophy then how we want to slowly use its debt capacity and not extinguish this, max out the credit card right away. That was the course of action that was moving forward and implementing the CIP. In other words, if you have $40 million, sell your $40 million, and guess what? You can't do anything after that. The logic behind this was to get small increments throughout the years to give the ability to continue to do infrastructure every year as something comes around. Like y'all said, let's address the ones that are really, really needed. Second point, in 28, 29, if council wish to increase its debt, you can any given time. I'll make sure that's clear. You're not limited. But there's consequences to the debt. You have to increase your funding. There's a tax rate associated with that. The philosophy behind this is try to not to put too much burden on the taxpayer on the debt tax rate, where we keep it kind of level or it goes down, but you still have the ability to issue debt. Now, council can decide if they want to increase your capacity and do more project, then you go up in your debt. A notation, I don't know if y'all pay attention, in 25 and 26, we increased 2 projects over $4 million. Bon Air, College Park, each went up $2 million. I didn't have $4 million in cash. Those are CO bonds, council. They're going up above what we thought we would do. So that takes some of your debt capacity away. So the point that Mr., what's your name?
Jesus Garza.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The point Mr. City Manager was talking about, these costs has kind of.
I've been here for 5 years, Gilbert.
Well, I've been in my closet 5 years. These costs has grown drastically. And then we, you know what? And we do have a very, very aggressive CIP. Compared to 5, 10 years ago, folks, this thing, it's like, you're spending 20, 30, last year you spent $98 million, $50 million on a building. But gentlemen and ladies, we have a very aggressive CIP. So, I put us up against any other city that spend that kind of money on an annual basis. So with that said, if we want to continue that course of action, that type of funding, you got to limit yourself how you want to use your debt and not max it out. But the reason I started this, any given time council wants to sell debt, you can sell debt, but there's consequences to that debt. That's all it is to it. Thank you.
No, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Any other questions? All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So I believe we will have a short executive session.
Yes, sir.
All right. So it is 6:57. We'll move into executive session. We'll take a 10-minute break and then reconvene. Ms. Hilbert.
City Council will recess to executive session on the 21st day of May 2024. Subject matter is as follows: executive session in accordance with Texas Government Code 551.087, 551.071, and 551.072.